Hi, I'm Paul Zammit, the Nancy Eaton Director of Horticulture at the Toronto Botanical Garden, and I'm here to share with you some of my favorite planting tips, in particular planting bulbs in established gardens in between perennials, and learning really how to maximize, get the most of every square inch of space in the garden. In this case here, we've got one of my favorite perennials. This is Geranium Roseanne. You really can't beat it. It's a long bloomer. One of the things about Roseanne, it has a narrow crown, so it's quite tight, but then has a sprawling habit, which means there's a lot of space around that. So at this time of the year, in late summer or fall, depending on the bulbs you're planting, my tip is take some string or some twine and grab your plants, just give them a wrap. Sorry, bees. Bees also love this plant, and so that's another great reason to include it in your garden. We're just going to give it a wrap and tie it up so that we can make use of the space around the plant. So taking the twine, you won't hurt the plant at all by doing this. As such. Give it a pull of it tight. And there's a few different clumps of Roseanne here, so we'll have to do it to each of them. As such. And then that'll free up the space in between the plant for planting. So I'm just going to get the rest of the plants ready, and then I'll show you how to actually plant the bulbs as well. So I'm just finishing up tying the Geranium Roseanne here, tying up its sprawling canopy, if you will, tying that up to make use of the space around that. I prepared my planting hole, cultivate so it's nice and well drained. I've added some bone meal, and I'm going to plant a grouping of 3 Allium Purple Sensation. I prefer to plant in groups of plants so that when the bulbs come into bloom, you get a maximum impact from the flowers all in one spot. Perhaps more importantly is as the foliage begins to mature and die down, it's all happening in one spot as opposed to being scattered in the garden. And I personally think we need to retrain ourselves. Don't think of the foliage of bulbs as dying and looking ratty. Think of it maturing and ripening and feeding the bulb underneath the ground. Doesn't necessarily look any better, but you feel better. Once we've planted our allium, and I'm using a planting depth of planting them 2 to 3 times as deep as they are wide, and you can see we've done so with our handy trowel here. We're going to take the existing soil and just put that back in, loosening that up nice and quickly, and making sure that we're firming it down as we go. We don't want to leave air pockets around the bulbs, because that's not good because they will dry out. Taking a bit more of our soil. And you'll note how close the bulbs actually are to the base of the geranium and also to the sedum here. And another very important point is the alliums tend to be mid-season flowering. So when they're in flower, this Miscanthus Dixieland will also be in full leaf, and the purple flowers of the allium will pop out against the Dixieland. So think about where you're going to plant the bulbs and what's going to be in flower when they're, or in leaf when they're in flower, to really maximize seasons of interest. Once we've done so, once we finish planting, I'd give this area a good water, then gently untie my geranium and just fluff it back up. It'll all be fine. The bees will be happy once again. I'm not going to stand around here too long because they'll be back very, very quickly, and I'll untie the sedum. And next year you'll have a splash of color in between the geraniums, the sedum, and the miscanthus. So this is just one of many tips we'll be sharing. Watch for more tips like these throughout the fall. Check out our webpage, www.torontobotanicalgarden.ca. Talk to you later.